A lot of gardeners assume you need a warm climate and a big backyard to grow lemons. That's simply not true. With the right container setup and a handful of proven techniques, you can harvest armloads of lemons no matter where you live. After 3 decades of growing citrus, I'm sharing 12 tricks that actually work. Pay close attention to trick number 11 on overwintering and stick around for the bonus tip at the end. The first trick to growing tons of lemons is choosing the right tree from the start. And that means going with a dwarf, container-friendly lemon that's been grafted onto reliable rootstock. A grafted dwarf tree gives you a huge advantage in a pot. The canopy stays manageable, usually topping out around 6 to 10 feet, which makes moving, pruning, and overwintering far easier. More importantly, dwarf varieties produce full-sized fruit on a compact frame, so you're not sacrificing yield for convenience. Improved Meyer is the most popular choice for containers because it handles indoor conditions better than most, produces sweeter fruit, and flowers heavily even in less than perfect light. Dwarf Eureka and Dwarf Lisbon are excellent if you prefer that classic tart lemon flavor. All 3 are self-fertile, so you won't need a second tree for pollination. Just make sure your tree is grafted rather than grown from seed. Seed-grown lemons can take a decade or more to fruit, and they often produce inferior crops, or a grafted tree from a reputable nursery will start flowering within a year or 2 and give you consistent harvests for decades. This single decision sets the foundation for everything else. The second trick is all about your container, and getting this right makes a bigger difference than most people realize. You want a large pot, at least 15 to 20 gallons, for a mature dwarf lemon, with excellent drainage holes at the bottom. Citrus roots hate sitting in water, and a pot that holds too much moisture will lead to root rot faster than almost any other mistake. Choose a container made from a material that breathes if possible, such as terracotta, fabric grow bags, or wooden half barrels. Plastic works fine too, but you'll need to be more careful about overwatering. When you plant your tree, pay close attention to the root flare, that slight swelling where the trunk meets the roots. This flare must sit at or just above the soil line, never buried. Planting too deep invites crown rot and suffocates the base of the trunk. If your tree came from a nursery with the root flare already buried, gently remove soil until you expose it before transplanting. A proper container with proper planting depth keeps oxygen flowing to the roots and moisture draining away, which is exactly what citrus needs to push out healthy growth and heavy fruit set. The third trick is using the right soil mix, and this is where many container gardeners go wrong. Never use native garden soil or heavy potting mixes designed for flowers and vegetables. Lemon. Trees need a fast-draining, slightly acidic growing medium that mimics the sandy, well-aerated soils citrus thrives in naturally. A quality citrus and cactus mix works beautifully, or you can blend your own using roughly equal parts peat moss or coconut coir, perlite, and pine bark fines. The goal is a mix that holds some moisture but releases excess water quickly. When you water, it should flow through the pot and out the drainage holes within a minute or 2. If the soil stays soggy for days, the roots will suffocate and begin to rot, and a stressed root system simply cannot support heavy fruiting. Refresh the top few inches of your mix each spring to prevent compaction and salt buildup. Good soil is the hidden engine behind a productive lemon tree, so take this step seriously from day 1. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more gardeners like yourself, who would also find this information helpful. All right, let's continue. The fourth trick is maximizing sunlight, and this is non-negotiable if you want heavy fruit production. Lemon trees are sun lovers that need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct light every day during the growing season. Outdoors, place your container in the sunniest spot available, ideally a south-facing location with no obstructions. One advantage of container growing is mobility, so don't hesitate to move your tree throughout the season to chase the sun as it shifts. Rotate the pot a quarter turn every week or 2, so all sides of the canopy receive equal light and the tree grows evenly. When you bring your lemon indoors for winter, light becomes your biggest challenge. Even a bright window rarely provides enough energy for active growth. A south-facing window helps, but most indoor gardeners see better results adding a grow light. Full-spectrum LED panels work well and don't produce excessive heat. Position the light about 12 to 18 inches above the canopy and run it for 10 to 14 hours daily. Without adequate light, your tree will drop flowers and developing fruit, and new growth will become weak and leggy. Think of sunlight as fuel. The more you provide, the more lemons your tree can produce. The fifth trick is learning to water by feel rather than following a rigid schedule. Container citrus has very different moisture needs than trees planted in the ground, and those needs change constantly based on temperature, humidity, pot size, and the season. The goal is deep, thorough watering, followed by a drying period before you water again. Stick your finger into the top 2 to 3 inches of soil. If it feels dry at that depth, it's time to water. If it still feels moist, wait another day or two and check again. When you do water, soak the entire root ball until water flows freely from the drainage holes. This encourages roots to grow deep and strong, rather than staying shallow near the surface. During hot summer months, a container lemon may need water every day or even twice daily. In winter, especially indoors, watering might drop to once a week or less. The mistake most gardeners make is either watering too lightly, which leaves the lower roots dry, or watering too frequently, which keeps the soil saturated and invites root rot. Learning to read your tree and respond to its actual needs is one of the most important skills you can develop. The sixth trick is feeding your lemon tree the way citrus actually wants to be fed, which means nitrogen-forward fertilizer applied consistently during active growth. Potted citrus burns through nutrients quickly because frequent watering flushes them out of the container. Without regular feeding, your tree will struggle to produce the lush foliage and abundant flowers needed for a heavy crop. Look for a fertilizer formulated specifically for citrus, or choose one with an NPK ratio around 2:1:1 or 3:1:1. Slow-release granular fertilizers work well and reduce the risk of overfeeding. Apply according to package directions from early spring through late summer, which is when your tree is actively growing and flowering. Some gardeners prefer liquid fertilizers applied every 2 to 3 weeks during this period for more precise control. Either approach works as long as you stay consistent. Stop fertilizing by early fall to let your tree harden off before winter. Pushing new growth late in the season leaves tender shoots vulnerable to cold damage. A well-fed lemon tree will reward you with deep green leaves, strong branches, and wave after wave of fragrant blossoms that set into fruit. The seventh trick addresses a problem many container gardeners overlook until it's too late, and that's micronutrient deficiency. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium get all the attention, but lemon trees also need smaller amounts of magnesium, iron, manganese, and zinc to stay healthy. Deficiencies show up quickly in containers because the limited soil volume can't buffer against imbalances the way ground soil can. Yellowing leaves with green veins often signal iron or manganese deficiency. Older leaves turning yellow between the veins usually points to magnesium. These problems reduce the tree's ability to photosynthesize, which directly impacts flowering and fruit production. The easiest prevention is using a quality citrus fertilizer that includes micronutrients and keeping your soil pH in the slightly acidic range of 6 to 7. If you notice symptoms developing, foliar sprays containing chelated iron or Epsom salt for magnesium can correct issues quickly. Test your soil pH once a year if possible, because alkaline conditions lock out micronutrients even when they're present in the mix. Catching and fixing these small deficiencies early keeps your canopy lush and productive, rather than struggling through the season with pale, weak growth that can't support a heavy fruit load. The eighth trick becomes essential once your lemon tree moves indoors, and that's hand pollination combined with better humidity and air circulation. Outdoors, bees and other insects transfer pollen from flower to flower without any help from you. Indoors, those pollinators are missing, and dry heated air makes matters worse by reducing pollen viability and causing flowers to drop before they set fruit. When your tree blooms inside, take a small soft paintbrush or cotton swab and gently dab the center of each open flower. Move from bloom to bloom, transferring pollen as you go. This mimics what bees do naturally and dramatically increases your fruit set. Do this every few days while flowers are open. At the same time, work on improving humidity around your tree. Lemon trees prefer humidity levels around 50%, which is much higher than most homes in winter. A pebble tray filled with water beneath the pot helps, as does grouping plants together or running a small humidifier nearby. Good air circulation from a gentle fan prevents fungal problems while keeping the foliage healthy. These simple adjustments can mean the difference between a tree that flowers but never fruits and one that produces lemons all winter long. The ninth trick is pruning with purpose, which means opening up the canopy for light and airflow while removing any suckers that appear below the graft union. A well-pruned lemon tree directs its energy into productive wood rather than wasting resources on crowded, shaded branches that will never fruit well. Start by removing any dead, damaged, or crossing branches. Then step back and look for areas where growth has become dense enough to block light from reaching the interior. Thin out some of these branches so sunlight can penetrate deeper into the canopy. More light reaching more leaves means more energy for fruit production. The best time for major pruning is late winter or early spring, just before the tree pushes new growth. Light shaping can happen any time. Pay special attention to the base of your tree, right at the soil line and below the graft union. Suckers that emerge from the rootstock below the graft are not the fruiting variety you purchased. They're from the vigorous rootstock, and if left unchecked, they'll steal energy from your lemon and may eventually overtake the tree entirely. Remove these suckers as soon as you spot them by cutting or pulling them cleanly at their base. Check for new suckers every few weeks during the growing season. Consistent, thoughtful pruning keeps your tree compact, healthy, and focused on producing the heavy crops you're after. The 10th trick is something many gardeners forget about until their tree starts declining, and that's repotting or root pruning to prevent root-bound conditions. A lemon tree growing in the same container for years will eventually fill every inch of space with roots. Once the roots have nowhere left to grow, they circle the inside of the pot. Water runs straight through without being absorbed, and the tree slowly loses vigor. Flowering decreases, fruit size shrinks, and leaves may yellow even with proper feeding. For younger trees, the solution is moving up to a larger container every 2 to 3 years. Choose a pot that's 2 to 4 inches wider than the current one, and refresh all the soil at the same time. For mature trees already in the largest container you can manage, root pruning is the answer. Remove the tree from its pot, use a sharp knife or saw to shave 2 to 3 inches off the sides and bottom of the root ball, then replant in the same container with fresh citrus mix filling the gaps. This may sound harsh, but citrus responds well to root pruning and will push vigorous new feeder roots into the fresh soil. The best time for repotting or root pruning is early spring before active growth begins. Staying ahead of root-bound decline keeps your tree productive for decades in the same manageable container. The 11th trick is overwintering correctly, and for gardeners outside zones 9 through 11, this is the make or break skill that determines whether your lemon tree thrives or barely survives. Most citrus suffers damage when temperatures drop below freezing, and hard freezes can kill a tree outright. If you live where winters get cold, your container lemon needs to come indoors before the first frost. The transition matters as much as the destination. Move your tree gradually over a week or two, bringing it into a sheltered spot like a covered porch before moving it fully inside. This reduces shock from the sudden change in light and humidity. Indoors, place your tree in the brightest location possible and supplement with grow lights as discussed earlier. Keep it away from heating vents and cold drafts, both of which stress the foliage. Expect some leaf drop during the adjustment period, but a healthy tree will stabilize within a few weeks. Ideal indoor temperatures for overwintering citrus are between 55 and 68 degrees. Cooler is actually better than too warm, because high heat combined with low light pushes weak growth. When spring arrives, reverse the process gradually. Harden your tree off by moving it outside for a few hours each day, increasing exposure over a week or two before leaving it out full time. The 12th and final trick is staying ahead of pests, especially before you bring your tree indoors for winter. Container citrus attracts its share of troublemakers, and indoor conditions allow pest populations to explode without the natural predators that keep them in check outside. Scale insects, spider mites, and aphids are the most common offenders. Scale appears as small brown or tan bumps along stems and the undersides of leaves. Spider mites cause stippled, dusty-looking foliage and fine webbing. Aphids cluster on new growth and leave sticky honeydew behind. Inspect your tree carefully every week or two, paying close attention to leaf undersides and branch crotches where pests like to hide. Before bringing your lemon indoors in fall, give it a thorough inspection and treat any problems you find. A strong spray of water dislodges many pests. Horticultural oil or insecticidal soap handles most infestations safely without harsh chemicals. Neem oil works well as both a treatment and preventive. Once indoors, continue monitoring regularly because dry heated air favors spider mites in particular. A healthy, well-cared-for tree resists pests better than a stressed one, so keeping all the other tricks dialed in supports your tree's natural defenses. Catching problems early keeps minor issues from becoming major setbacks. Now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by. If your lemon tree flowers heavily but drops most of the tiny fruitlets before they develop, the problem is often inconsistent moisture right after fruit set. Citrus is especially sensitive to water stress during the first few weeks after pollination, when the tree decides which fruitlets to keep and which to abort. Even a single day of drought during this window can trigger a massive drop. The solution is paying extra close attention to soil moisture from the moment flowers fade until the developing fruit reaches marble size, usually about 4 to 6 weeks. Check the soil daily during this period and water promptly whenever the top 2 inches feel dry. Some growers add a thin layer of mulch on top of the soil to help stabilize moisture and reduce evaporation. This one adjustment, protecting your tree from water stress during early fruit development, can double or triple the number of lemons that actually make it to harvest. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.